I'm Steffan Kraiker for Pedal Magazine, and this is the 2015 City Cycling Report for Toronto, Ontario. With 2.8 million residents, Toronto is the most populated city in Canada and fourth most in North America. This is what Toronto's bicycle infrastructure looks like today. 15.1 kilometers of separated bicycle lanes, 297.4 kilometers of mixed-use cycling paths, 209 kilometers of white-painted lanes, 6.1 kilometers of yellow-painted contraflow lanes for 215.1 kilometers of marked bike lanes, 26.2 kilometers of shared bike routes including Sharrows, for a total bicycle network in Toronto of 855.8 kilometers. Toronto has a long history of bicycle advocacy, dating back to the early 70s with the Battle for the Beltline, which now runs 9 kilometers through 5 Toronto neighborhoods, and Winona Gallup, who worked for almost a decade to achieve a safe place for children to ride bikes on what's now known as the Martin Goodman Trail, which spans most of Toronto's scenic waterfront. The formation of the Toronto City Cycling Committee in 1975 was another big step forward, comprised of advocates, city councillors, and volunteers with a policy mandate to implement programs that will promote and facilitate greater and safer use of the bicycle. The TCCC saw the first on-street bike lane in 1979, and for more than 20 years was the driving force for the development of Toronto's cycling infrastructure. In 1982, Jack Layton co-chaired the Toronto City Cycling Committee, and for years worked to ensure that cycling was on the Toronto City Council agenda, with money made available to both its staff and projects. Former Toronto Mayor David Miller presented an ambitious bike plan to build over 1,000 kilometers of bike lanes. However, he was met with strong opposition in City Council. He did not accomplish as much as he had hoped, but expressed that the city was well on its way. In 2001, the Toronto City Council adopted the Toronto Bike Plan, a program to develop and expand the cycling network of on-road and off-road bikeways, signage, and parking. A major initiative of the Toronto Bike Plan focused on education and promotion to increase the number of cyclists and reduce bicycle-related collisions, and a goal was set that by 2011, any cyclist in the city would be within a 5-minute ride of a designated bike route. As of 2008, 400 kilometers of the proposed 1,000-kilometer bikeway network was in place, and today stands at 856 kilometers completed. Currently, the City of Toronto is engaging the public in developing its next 10-year plan, and Phase 2 consultations are available to all via website and an app available for Android and iOS smartphones. Along with advocacy from groups such as Cycle Toronto, formerly known as Toronto Cyclist Union, and constantly growing network of municipal policy advisors, the development of Toronto's cycling infrastructure is making steady progress and continues to make strides with the recently implemented cycle tracks and proposals to extend them. Eleanor McMahon and the Share the Road Coalition are an example of progressive and effective activism happening on the provincial level. Eleanor founded Share the Road in 2006 after her husband Greg lost his life while riding his bike. The goal of the coalition was to advocate for safer roads for all Ontarians. Share the Road has achieved considerable success, such as its campaign for legislative change with Bill 31, which includes a 1-meter safe passing law and increased penalties for motorists who open their doors into oncoming cyclists. As well, McMahon played a key role in securing a $25 million investment into Ontario's cycling infrastructure, which was announced in 2014. In an interview for Pedal Magazine, Eleanor McMahon stated that she's most proud of the way Share the Road has changed the conversation about cycling, saying no longer are communities and governments asking why they should invest in cycling, they're asking how. The Ontario Bike Summit provides a forum for decision makers and advocates to be inspired by best practices from around Ontario and beyond, to gain the practical skills necessary to act on that inspiration, and to learn from the growing network of people interested in making Ontario the best place in Canada to ride a bike. One example of the benefits of this annual event is the Ontario Waterfront Trail, which in 2014 secured valuable investments through connections made at the Ontario Bike Summit. The Great Lakes Waterfront Trail stretches over 1,600 kilometers from the St. Lawrence River to Lake Erie, connects 75 communities with 405 parks and natural areas. Among the many positive signs that Toronto is on track to be realized as a world-class city for cycling, a survey in 2013 found that female ridership is up to 48%, nearing parity with male ridership. As women are considered the indicator species for a bicycle-friendly city, I see this as a sign for optimism of Toronto's developing cycling infrastructure and the policy that's guiding it. Last but not least, in July 2015, Toronto hired its first Director of Transit and Sustainable Transportation, Hilary Holden. She has a big job, and it isn't simply related to cycling advocacy, but her background in multimodal transit planning will certainly be a huge asset for Toronto moving forward. If you would like to find out more about how these people and organizations are working to improve cycling in Toronto and Ontario, and some of the incredible ways that you can discover Ontario by bicycle, please visit these websites: toronto.ca, sharetheroad.ca, cycleto.ca, and waterfronttrail.org. For Pedal Magazine and the 2015 City Cycling Report for Toronto, I'm Steffan Kraiker.